Welcome to the Brass Hand Woodwind Shop. This video is going to be about regulating flute keys. Adjusting and regulating are two different things. When you push one key down, there are other keys that are supposed to close. Adjusting is making sure that they close at the same time. Regulating is making sure that they start to close at the same time. This flute came into my shop for a repad. I took off all the pads, I cleaned everything up, I replaced the pads and the corks, and then I put the keys back on, and I already leveled the pads, seated the pads, and adjusted the pads. So now all that's left is regulating. Since this flute is an adjustment, if you were to play it, it would play fine. All the keys would close, and you could get down to the lowest note, and all the notes would work on it, but it just would not feel right, and also some of the notes may be out of tune. Regulating is one of the last things you do when you try to get a flute to play well. If you have not watched the videos on adjusting and flute pad height, you should probably watch those first and watch this video last. The links for those videos will be in the description below. The foot joint on a flute does not need to be regulated. On this one, you just need to make sure that the pad heights are open the right amount and also that these two keys are an adjustment, but it does not need regulation. On the body of a flute, there are several keys that do not need regulating. The high C key does not need regulation. The double G key does not need regulation unless you have a split E mechanism. The G sharp key and the trill keys also do not need to be regulated. On those keys, you need to make sure that the pad height is correct, but they do not need regulating. Usually before I regulate a flute, I take off the B key and the B flat lever because those ones just get in the way until after it's regulated, and then I put those on and finish by regulating those keys. These are about all the tools you'll need to regulate a flute: a piece of sandpaper to sand the corks, and a pad leveling tool. This is not used for leveling pads though, it's used for bending the feet of the flute if that is needed. And a pliers, and sometimes you need a pliers to bend the feet of a flute. You try to avoid this if you can, but sometimes you need to use that. And a flute pad height gauge. Flute pad height and regulation are two different things, but there is one key that you need to make sure is opened to the right height before you get started. If the F key is opened up to the correct height, then all of the other keys that need to be regulated will also be opened to the correct height after the flute has been regulated. One tool you should not need is a screwdriver for the adjustment screws, and that's because the flute should already be an adjustment before you regulate it. Also, the feeler gauge should not be needed because that also is used for adjusting the flute. I'm going to start by closing the F key. The F key closes itself, and it closes the F sharp key and the B flat key. And those all close together, but they don't all start to close together. Watch closely when I push this key. When I push this key, it starts to close, but these two do not close. If I push a little farther, then it starts to close the F sharp key, and if I push a little farther yet, it also closes the B flat key. So these three keys start to close at different times. There are three different keys that all close the F sharp key. I'm going to get the B flat key out of the way for now so it doesn't get in the way when I work on the F to F sharp adjustment. Now I'm going to check these three keys to see which of the keys is closing the F sharp key first. Okay, I'm pushing down the F key, and that is not closing the F sharp key. And then the E key also is not closing the F sharp key first, at least. And then the D key is closing the F sharp key at the same time. So I know that the D key needs to be opened up farther. So what I'm going to do is turn the flute around, and there's a cork on the back of the D key. That cork needs to be sanded down, and what that will do is it will open up the D key a little bit farther so that it will also open up the F sharp key. The F sharp key will be opened up so that it will meet either one or the other or both of the other keys. What I'm going to do is turn the flute around and take the sandpaper and put it underneath the cork. I do it like that to take down a little bit of the cork. Then I turn it around to see if I've gone too far or not far enough. I check the F key again, and there's still a little bit of motion before it starts to work the F sharp key. And I check this one, still a little bit of motion, and this key still closes this key first. So the foot on the back of this key needs to be sanded a little bit more yet. So I'm going to sand that some more. And then turn it around and check it again. I am checking the F key, and those two start to close at the same time, so that's good. I'm going to move over to the E key, and that one starts to close before the F sharp key. So I know that this one is opened too far. And now the D key, and that one looks good too. Those two start to close at the same time. So the one that's off now is the E key. I'm going to take the flute pad leveling tool, and with that I'm going to push down and bend the foot of the key down just a little bit. Now I'm going to check it again. That is good. That one, there's still a little bit of lost motion. And lost motion is when the one key moves before it starts to move the other key. It's not a lot, but there is a little bit. So I still need to close this a little bit farther. And I will check it again. Okay, that one is still good. That one, it looks like I didn't move it at all. So I'm going to try to push that down a little bit farther and check it again. So every time you do anything on the back of the flute, check your work and see how it affects the regulation of the flute. That is good. Okay, that one is good. And that one is good. So all three of these are good, and they close the F sharp key at the same time. And that's what you want. You want all three of these keys to start to close the F sharp key at the same time. Now that I'm done with these keys, I'm going to move on to the B flat regulation. On the F key, the foot of the F key is this little tab. And what I mean by a foot is where the key sits when you are not pushing it down. On top of that tab, there's another foot, and that is for the B flat key. So if I push down the B flat key, you can see the foot of that B flat key moving. The F key also closes the B flat key right there. Now the F key and the F sharp key start to close together, but you have to push those down quite a ways before the B flat key starts to close. The reason why is the A key. The A key also closes the B flat key, and if this key is not opened up far enough, it's going to start to close this key before the F key gets a chance to close it. So what I need to do is open up the A key. When I open the A key, it will also open up the B flat key. And I want that B flat key to open until the foot of the B flat key sits on the foot of the F key. I'm going to turn the flute around and use the sandpaper to sand the A key, the cork underneath the foot of the A key. I'm going to sand that a little bit, and then I'm going to check to see if it opened up the B flat key the right amount. It still starts to close the B flat key together. Now I'm going to check the F to the B flat regulation, and I'm going to see if they start to close at the same time. Yes, they do start to close at the same time. Now that I'm done with that regulation, all of the 6 keys on the top of the flute that need to be regulated are regulated. And now I need to work with the B key and the B flat lever. The reason I take this off before I start is to keep it out of the way, and that makes it easier to regulate the rest of the keys on the flute. Now I'm going to put the B key and the B flat lever on the flute. You can close the B key by itself by just pushing this part of the key, but you can also close the B flat key by pushing the B flat lever. It closes the B key, and also on the other side of the flute it closes the B flat key, and it does it with the foot of the B flat key, which is right there. There are 2 feet on the B flat key. There's the one that's over the B flat lever, and there's also the one that's over the F key. These 2 feet should be touching the F key and the B flat lever at the same time. You can see that it's not doing that though. The B flat lever is moving a little bit before it starts to move the B flat key. So it is sitting on the F key but not the B flat lever. If I bent the foot of the B flat key so that it touches the B flat lever to put it into regulation, it would take it out of adjustment. So what I need to do is I need to move the B flat lever up. And I cannot bend anything, so what I need to do is remove the cork that's right there and put a thicker cork on there. I put a thicker cork on the B flat lever, which is a little bit too thick because the other foot for the B flat key does not meet the F key now, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this cork down until this foot meets the F key. So I'm going to sand this down. And then I'm going to check and see how it is. It still needs to be sanded down a little bit more. So I'm just going to sand that down until this is the right height. I sanded the cork down and now this flute is in regulation. After you are done regulating the flute, go back and check the adjustments on the flute because things may have shifted a little bit when you regulated it. I hope this video has been helpful. However, if you did find it confusing, this is a very difficult job and it's hard to get it right on the first time. So I suggest that you take a flute and practice with it, and if you keep trying, you will get better at it. Also, be sure to watch the other videos on flute pads. I will leave the link to the playlist in the description below.